All right, so Merry Christmas. It's been about a month, maybe a month and a half since I did a video talking about displays for the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. Hopefully you got one. If you did, maybe you were interested in knowing what type of TV you should get for that console. On the box, those consoles boast specs like 8K, HDMI 2.1, and you might be interested in what you can do, what display you should be buying to get the most out of those. Well, just to cut it straight to the point, it's going to be a TV. A TV is going to give you the absolute best picture quality and the most that you can get out of those consoles. All of those numbers and these terminologies that you'll see on the console box and maybe in reviews you've seen, you got to get a TV. But throughout me doing that video that is in the description of this video, I got a lot of comments with people asking me about monitors. What about monitors? Can you talk about monitors? Are there some monitor options you consider? Why buy a TV when you can get a monitor? Well, again, as I just said, you cannot get the most out of a monitor with these consoles, okay? HDMI 2.1 is not something that's going to be present in any monitor that I can think of. What you're going to have in a lot of monitors are going to be DisplayPort. So for PC gaming, historically, you've been able to get higher refresh rates in 4K or below 4K with using a DisplayPort connection. For example, if you wanted to play 1080p, 240 hertz, 1080p, 360 hertz, it's got to be through DisplayPort. That's how it's been achieved, through computing gaming with the graphics cards having DisplayPort, not with HDMI. So now that we have these new consoles, we have new HDMI technology. That's why TV is such a popular option. And that's why in that video, I made it really quick and to the point, just to give you a little guide as to some models you can look towards to get a TV and to get the maximum resolution and refresh rate should the developers make the games for them out of your TV set. But today I'm just going to be talking about one monitor in particular. It's one that I'm going to talk about from a consumer perspective because I bought it 2 times. And this monitor is going to be the LG UL600. This monitor is 4K. It's 60 hertz. It's not beyond 60 hertz. But the reason that I focus in on this monitor as being like a great monitor is for your average gamer / streamer. And again, focusing on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, not S, because we're not looking at the higher refresh rate. We're trying to focus in on that graphical fidelity of 4K and at 60 frames per second that these consoles are trying to bring to you with AAA titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Maybe you're replaying the Spider-Man game that was not truly in 4K on the PlayStation 4 Pro. You're trying to enjoy that and you want to get the best picture quality out of that, which is going to be 4K. You want to play it at 60 frames per second, which is going to be a nice sweet spot so that you can do combos, you know, maybe do counterattacks, things like that. As well as me personally, historically, I've always been a fighting game player. Fighting games play at 60 frames per second, right? So this particular monitor is going to be good for a lot of different reasons. Number one, it's an IPS display, which means that at certain angles, at all angles, pretty much you're going to get a more consistent picture. Number two is 27-inch. So if you are in a scenario where you invite a friend over, or if you're doing some tournament gaming or something like that, 2 people are going to be able to sit. Even with social distancing going on during COVID, you can still see clearly. Number 3, it's got high dynamic range. Now, I don't want to get into too many crazy logistics about what HDR is. I'm personally sitting in front of a monitor right now that's got full HDR, 1000 nits of brightness. The brightness that you're seeing on my face is coming from that monitor looking at a white screen. This particular monitor that I'm talking about is not going to be as bright, but it does give you some high dynamic range functionality. Okay, so that's going to be a good thing because, again, when you're playing games like the Spider-Man games, like Assassin's Creed, the developers are making these games with HDR. HDR is essentially an option that's going to give you a brighter white and a deeper black, and it's going to do a good job of separating the two. A great example would be you looking at a scene in a movie if there's darkness, but you got a moon there. So the reflection of the moon is white, right? But contrasting that well with how dark the skies are at nighttime. Something like that is what HDR is going to do. It's going to focus on that white piece of the moon to give you illumination from there so that you can see that separation between darkness and brightness. This monitor that I'm talking about isn't going to give you a full spectrum of that, but it's going to give you a great entry point to express what the developers want you to see, right? Number four, pretty sure I'm at four. Number four is going to be input latency. So there's a lot of different things that people don't understand. We look at refresh rate, we look at resolution, we look at response time. We don't look at input latency though. And that's something that, again, me being an ex-competitive fighting game player is really, really sensitive to. How fast the monitor is actually going to display what I'm trying to see based on when I hit a button. This also goes for people that are playing shooting games, people that are playing platform games where there might be like a crazy scenario where you have to jump or duck, depending on the game that you're playing. You want to be playing on a monitor that's going to be responsive to the T as quick as possible. This monitor boasts about 8.8 milliseconds of input lag. Anything under 12 milliseconds is really where you want to be. But you're going to get a really, really low input latency with this monitor. OK, I'm not going to talk about a lot of the bad perks of it, but for the most part, it's going to be a really good option. What I want to do is roll through and show you some footage of how I'm utilizing the monitor. I personally bought two of them, right? I got two because I got a setup going where I'm actually using this monitor for gaming and I'm using it for content creating too. So I got this monitor set up on a gaming / streaming / editing PC that does feature a Ryzen 9 processor, 32 gigs of RAM, an RTX 2080 graphics card, an 850 watt power supply, and a plethora of different solid state hard drives and mechanical hard drives. I use this particular system for editing my content. So I'm kind of early into doing this, but when I want to render a video in 4K that I've shot using this 4K camera that I'm using to record this video, I'm using this monitor. Having HDR and things of that sort, what we were just talking about, is going to make it so that whenever I'm shooting something, I'm able to actually see what I'm shooting. So again, this monitor doubles up as a great opportunity for people that are into content creating, streaming, and gaming on your new console. So it's definitely something I think you should consider. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll do the best that I can to answer them. I'm really attentive to the channel right now. Again, link to the TV guide that I recommend with me and my friend Pedro. We shot that about a month and a half ago. Is going to be in the description of this video, so you can hop to that. If you're having issues seeing that, try looking at it from your cell phone or tablet browser or your computer browser, because there's been some issues with that video showing on the YouTube app. Let me know if you guys need anything. That's all I got. Max love.